Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I cap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 19th of December, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So kicking off today, we have some fresh ETF news. This time it's about the Bitcoin ETF, not the ETH ETFs, although I did see that there was some spot ETH ETF news that the applications from a couple of the issuers were delayed, and I think that their delay date was supposed to be something like the 25th of December, but they were delayed today, which is no surprise, obviously. There is no way that the SEC is going to be approving spot ETH ETFs before the spot BTC ETFs, but the news today is in regards to this, I guess, like debate that's been happening on crypto Twitter and this kind of back and forth between the issuers and the SEC around how these ETFs would actually be issued, whether it would be issued based on a cash create process or an in-kind process. Now, it seems like the SEC has basically strong-armed all of these issuers into going with an in-kind process, which I've seen some back and forth about this on crypto Twitter. Some people saying, it's worse for taxes. Some people saying that, cash creates is better. Sorry, I think they have to go with cash creates, not in-kind. Some people saying, in-kind's better. And honestly, like from the everything that I've seen, the TLDR is that it doesn't really matter, especially for the size that these kind of ETFs are going to be operating at. The net result is not really going to matter either way there. But there is always an option for these ETFs to be converted to an in-kind model later down the line, which could happen, right? I mean, the door's always open for that. But the reason I bring this up, not just because it's some boring administrative stuff when it comes to ETFs, but the reason I bring this up is because you can see here that Eric Bocanis said that BlackRock was last in line here to go cash only, and he said that's basically a wrap. Debate over. In-kind will have to wait. It's all about getting ducks in a row before the holidays. Good sign, because I believe that this week is the last operating week for the SEC before they go on holidays and return, obviously, just before, I guess, just on maybe Jan 8th, the week of Jan 8th there, which is the expected date for all of the approvals to happen. Now, this is some dubious speculation on my behalf, but if all the ducks are basically in a row now and everything is kind of to the SEC satisfaction, then there is a non-zero chance. I mean, I wouldn't put it as a high chance, but there is a non-zero chance that the ETFs could get approved this week, right? Now, why would the SEC do this? Maybe they just want to get it off their plate and they don't want to have this overhanging until the new year or something like that. And the thing is that, like, because it's a small chance of happening, it might have a market impact because maybe the market isn't expecting this. So I'm not sure, if they're going to do it or not. As I said, it's dubious speculation, and I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of things. But if it does get approved this week, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, of course, approved doesn't mean that these things are going to start trading. I think it takes at least 1 to 2 months after approval for these things to start trading, which means that if it did get approved this week, it probably wouldn't start trading until at least late Jan, early Feb. And same is true for getting it approved during the Jan 8th week or the week of Jan 8th, it would probably take till sometime in Feb for these things to actually start trading. So all during this period, there's still just going to be speculation happening. And it kind of begs the question, and I think this is why the markets are in a bit of a funny place right now, is because markets don't like uncertainty. And this is a lot of uncertainty because no one knows, if they do get approved. I mean, I think the market is convinced that they're going to get approved. But right now, the market doesn't know whether the approval is going to be a sell the news event, whether it's going to be like a rotation event, like is BTC just going to stagnate for a little while and then other things are going to go up. Like, the market just doesn't know right now. So I think that once they get approved, that takes a bunch of uncertainty out of the market, and we have maybe a reset of the market in terms of maybe we go up and then come down and then go sideways for a bit, and then the market kind of finds its bearing again and we start going up again. Or maybe we don't go down and the market's like, okay, well, it wasn't a sell the news event and we continue up to all-time highs or something like that. I think that's the main kind of concern right now, and that's the main kind of uncertainty in the market right now. So we won't know, obviously, until they get approved. As I said, non-zero chance that they get approved this week. But it's a small chance. Like, I wouldn't give it a high chance at all. But I still think, it's very, very good odds, very, very high chance that these are going to get approved by that Jan 10th final deadline there, especially since the amendments here and the changes to these ETFs with the back and forth of the SEC have been going on for weeks now. And as Eric says here, it was getting their ducks in a row before the holidays, which means that if they wanted to guarantee an approval by the Jan 10th date, they needed to do all of this. So obviously there's been a lot of back and forth, and it's And we're now here where we're basically speculating on exactly when it's going to get approved. Now, there is one other kind of thing in the mix here that actually leads to a bit more uncertainty, and it's around the Grayscale GBTC trust. Now, people expect this thing to be converted to an ETF, but at the same time, they don't actually know if this will happen at the same time as the other ETFs going live, because it basically gives Grayscale a pretty big advantage, I think, because they already have a lot of BTC in that trust. I think it's like 600,000 BTC or something in that trust right now. So if they were given the green light to convert that to an ETF, that would mean that they have a head start on all the other ETF issuers. So there might be a thing where all of them get approved, the Grayscale one gets approved as well, but there is a clause that says that Grayscale can't convert their trust to an ETF until a later date, just to give the other ETF issuers a chance to compete. And again, that's more uncertainty. But at the same time, if the SEC approves them, even if it happens at a later date, if the SEC approves that conversion, the Grayscale premium, or sorry, discount, I should say, the GBTC discount should collapse and should basically be near 0%. And that would mean that the ETH discount as well should be near 0% because people will say that, okay, well, if the GBTC is getting the conversion, then that means ETH will as well once the round of spot ETH ETFs get approved. And then that's just a huge amount of uncertainty off the market as well there. So yes, lots of stuff happening. The next few weeks could be quite volatile because of it. Holiday period. People like to take advantage of that. Less people are going to be online. There's going to be less liquidity. And if the ETFs do get approved this week, that's just going to be another thing that plays out during the holidays. But if it doesn't get approved this week and we're still waiting till Jan 10th, that's still going to get played out in the market because people are still going to be speculating on it getting approved. Either way, yeah, I think the next maybe 3 weeks at least are going to be a fun one in the market. Maybe it just goes sideways. Maybe the market is so uncertain that it doesn't want to go in any direction. It just wants to go sideways. But there will be volatility around any kind of, I guess, like announcements with regards to the ETF being approved or not. There's still a chance that they won't get approved. But I think at this point, market is convinced. I'm pretty convinced. All the ETF experts are convinced that these things are getting approved. It's just more around timing now. All right, so Coinbase has announced an initiative with a bunch of, I guess, VCs and funds in the crypto ecosystem. So what this is, it's basically a PAC in the US for, I guess, like the PAC's name was here. I think it was called Fairshake or something like that, if I remember the name correctly. So essentially what they're doing is that they're donating to this PAC. Fairshake PAC. You can see it here. There's actually a website for it. So they're donating to this PAC in order to fight for crypto policy or for positive crypto policy in the US. Now, this isn't a small chunk of change. They've managed to raise $78 million in just Q4 so far. And these, I guess, like donations came from very popular VCs and funds such as A16Z, such as Coinbase themselves, of course. You can see here Kraken's in here as well, Paradigm, even players like Ripple and individuals like the Winklevoss twins, they've all participated in this and put money forward. And as I said, that is a huge amount of money there. And it's basically crypto getting its, I guess, like spot in DC, in the US political system here, because unfortunately, whether you like it or not, this is the way it works. You have to buy your way in, basically, and you have to grease the right palms, so to speak. And I think that the fact that they were able to raise this in just Q4 alone, and the fact that they're going to keep raising money towards this is a hugely positive thing, especially going into an election year where essentially, obviously, Democrats want to stay in power, but at the same time, a lot of the high-ranking Democrats are very hostile to crypto. Elizabeth Warren being the most well-known one. And then on the Republican side of things, from what I've seen, a lot of them are quite friendly to crypto. So if we can make crypto a big enough issue for them to care about it by going through these kind of lobbying efforts, right? Then it could become an issue that gets brought up during debates, which it already has. I believe one of the Republican candidates brought up crypto during a debate recently. But if we can just get this to the forefront and get more people caring about it and get more politicians caring about it, then we could hopefully change the tide here. I mean, I don't expect someone like Elizabeth Warren to change her tune. If she did, I'd be surprised. But obviously I'd welcome it because that would mean that our biggest, I guess, enemy within the political system would obviously not be an enemy of crypto anymore, and that would really help us within Congress in the US. But as I said, I don't expect her to flip anytime soon if she ever does. So it's more about getting the people that are on the fence, that don't have a strong stance either way, and getting them to be pro crypto. And this is how you do it. You do it with money. You show that the industry that you're representing is a force, not only from the social side of things, but also from the money side of things. And this is a huge show of force. I mean, $78 million in just one quarter raised is a huge show of force here and a huge amount of money, and I think that will end up being hundreds of millions of dollars by the time maybe the election rolls around next year, because next year's it's going to be crazy, guys. Like US election years are always crazy. I mean, it's funny to me as an Australian. In Australia, our election cycle is like 6 weeks, so you have 6 weeks of like the political ads and stuff like that, and then in the US it's like what 12 months at least or something like that at the very least. I mean, it seems to start like at the 18-month before the election mark. So yeah, it's going to be a very hot election next year, not just for crypto, but I think in general in the US. Obviously, there's a lot of hot button issues right now. And it seems like the country is more divided than ever from the outside looking in. It seems like that is kind of a trend going on worldwide right now, sadly. But when it comes to crypto, as I said, like generally the higher ranking Democrats have been hostile. The Republicans are more pro, and there are a lot of people in between, in the middle, don't have a positive or negative view of it, but they need to be educated on it, and we can bring them over to our side, because if they don't already have an opinion on it, they're much easier to sway to our side of things than if they already have like a very stern opinion against it, right? But anyway, you can go read more details about this. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so I just wanted to highlight this really awesome website that was created by a few Daily Gwei community members today. So you can see here, El Coco and ZK Ben have created this website called dopecryptosites.xyz. Now, you'll recognize ZK Ben because he runs the Daily Gwei TV Twitter account where he posts clips from the Daily Gwei. And El Coco, he's pretty active in the Discord channel. I'm sure some of you guys have seen him on Twitter as well. But basically what this website is it's taking all of the links that I mentioned on the Daily Gwei and putting them in a central repository. So you can see here how many actual links there are and how many kind of resources there are. I mean, I'm just scrolling down on the page here. There are so many. Now, of course, you don't have to scroll down. There are ways to kind of put them into categories here. So if you want to know about things that to do with Rocket Pool, you just select Rocket Pool as the category, and here you go. You've got like an RPL dashboard on Dune Analytics. You've got an investment thesis piece, all these sorts of things. So really, their goal with this site seems to be that anything I mention, any resource I mention on the Daily Gwei, instead of you having to go fish through Daily Gwei episodes to find it, you'll be able to go to dopecryptosites.xyz and find them all here. So huge kudos to El Coco and ZK Ben for doing this. And any others that helped with this, of course. This is really awesome. And yeah, I mean, I didn't commission this or anything. These guys just did it on their own. I love seeing this stuff because this is the power of the Ethereum community to me. They just, people just do things on their own. No one's kind of holding them back. No one says you can't do it. And it's really humbling that they're basically using the content that I put out in order to populate this website. And as I said, there are so many resources here. You could get lost in here for weeks, months, just going through everything that's on here. So you can go check that out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. Right, of course, today was the day that Eigenlayer raised a bunch of its LST caps and also introduced a bunch of new LSTs to its platform here. I know there was a bit of a race to get in. It didn't end up turning into as much of a gas war as I think people suspected it to be. I think that was because there's a lot of different LSTs on the platform now. So if you go to restaking.nethermind.io, Nethermind has built a dashboard for tracking this, and you can see which LSTs are in. And kind of the quantities and the amounts here. Obviously, ST8 is leading because ST8 has such a large kind of presence on the network, right, as opposed to other LSTs out there. But second place is actually native ETH, which is pretty cool to see. And I described this the other day. The reason it's second place, or a big reason, is because EtherFi is basically taking in native ETH and using it and restaking it with Eigenlayer here, and then RETH and CBETH are basically neck and neck. Swell ETH is actually up there as well. Swell ETH is I think third. It seems like they're third behind ST8 and native ETH here, which is great to see because they're also doing the liquid, the native liquid restaking token. So they're doing a bit more stuff there, similar to what EtherFi is doing here. But on this website, you can actually also see a timeline of what this looks like. So each time the cap is raised, you can see it kind of spiking up here. And then there's a bunch of different metrics that you can check out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But this is a huge amount of assets in Eigenlayer, guys. I mean, I don't know if they're going to raise the caps again before they go live with EigenDA, which I think is slated for sometime in Q1, which is obviously the flagship Eigenlayer product here. But I mean, I don't know what this is off the top of my head in terms of the total dollar value here of this, because I mean, if I'm just eyeing this right now, I think there's like what 200 and I don't know, maybe almost 300,000 ETH in there or something like that. So let's just say 250,000, just because I don't know exactly. And if we do that times what 20 200. I don't even know what the current price of ETH is. I'm a bad ETH maxi today. Yeah, it's 2240. All right, let's do 250,000 times 2400, and then let's do that. So yeah, it's 600 million. So yeah, 600 million dollars. I think is in is in Eigenlayer right now, restaking. Not as much as the Blast kind of L2. I mean, it's not an L2. The Blast multi-sig, I should say. But this is a huge amount of economic security that can bootstrap the Eigenlayer network here, and I guess I really like the way Eigenlayer has done it with the TVL caps, and I really like the fact that they're going to be going live with a product really soon. It's not just going to be we'll do a product sometime in the future, and they haven't. I guess put stuff out there where they're like, oh, you can refer friends and earn more points and things like that, or they haven't promised any token or any airdrops or anything like that. So it was done in a much less degen way, but at the same time, they've obviously attracted a lot of TVL because one, people are trying to farm the airdrop. Two, they definitely want to be part of Eigenlayer as early as possible because there are potentially some juiced yields to get from that. And three, it's just something new to do with your LSTs, right? If you're sitting there and you've got an LST and you're wondering, okay, what can I do with this? Yeah, okay, you can put it into a money market, you can leverage it, you can hold it and then just sell it if you want into dollars because you think the market's going to go down, or you can put it into Eigenlayer and basically, as I said, potentially farm a potential airdrop and get that juiced yields, get those juiced yields when Eigenlayer goes live sometime soon. But as I said, I think Q1 is when they're targeting EigenDA launch. But yeah, we'll have to see how that shakes out there. But you can go check out this dashboard for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, Liam here, who is is an advisor to Optimism, put out a tweet today where he said the L2 usage of core data gas as a percent of all gas. In January of this year, it was only 0.5%. In December, this month, it is now 20%. And there is a Dune Analytics chart here that you can see. And I've showed this a bunch of times on the refuel before about basically the percentage of L2 or core data that's taken up as opposed to normal kind of Ethereum gas or normal Ethereum network share here. So because of inscriptions, it has spiked up to over 20% recently. But even before inscriptions, it was going up because L2 usage obviously has gone up a lot recently, and it was sitting between 10 to 15% of all usage of the gas share of the network here. Now, what's cool about this? There's two things cool about this. One, obviously shows that people are willing to spend even like higher fees on L2s, like even if the fees go up to like $1 or something like that, people are still willing to spend that on fees. So I've always found it puzzling that people say, oh, these fees are pricing people out. It's like, yes, but the thing is that there's always someone paying for them. So essentially what you have is you have this balance of people that are willing to pay for it, other people who can't afford it, and they go to where obviously the fees are cheaper. Things like that. It doesn't matter if it's L2s or other L1s. So there's always this kind of balancing act with capacity and with fees and all that. But at the same time, the second thing here is that a lot of this, gas usage is going to reset with the introduction of blobs, which is obviously coming with EIP 4844 or Denkun, hopefully in March or April next year. And the reason for that is that you expect a lot of this activity to move to blobs, right? You expect a lot of the roll-ups to be putting their data in blobs instead of core data because it's going to be cheaper to do so, at least at the beginning. But there is also a risk here that blobs don't actually end up being cheaper because they get spammed with inscriptions. And I talked about inscriptions yesterday, so I'm not going to rehash my thoughts on that here. But when you think about it like that, you start to think, okay, is this going to be a short-term thing? Is it going to be a long-term thing? What are the costs actually going to look like, right? Because as I mentioned yesterday, you can't stop people from putting anything they want into blobs as long as it satisfies the rules of what you can put into blobs. It's not just exclusive to L2s. And there's really no way that you could make an L2 exclusive, transaction type without basically committing censorship. I mean, technically, this is basically impossible to do, but technically, you could basically get all the validators to censor any transactions that aren't L2 related to the kind of blobs. It would be a mess. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's impossible to do. Like, if we're talking from a pure theoretical perspective, it could be possible, but from a practical perspective, it's basically impossible. So then it comes back to the question of, okay, well, it just becomes a bidding war again. And L2s and roll-ups, they're going to outbid the inscriptions anyway because they need to use this. Whether it's core data or blobs, they need to use this. But then it begs the question of what the long term looks like. Because I do think that the inscription stuff, while it's new and flashy and whatever, I think that it still is just a lot of speculation, right? And the speculation, it changes over time. It doesn't, and then speculation has boom and busts. So it could be a thing where inscriptions just loses favor for a while, blobs go down because it's just roll-ups using them, and then inscriptions come back and start spamming again because the speculation picks up again. And there could be an interesting thing here where essentially what happens is that there's like an arbitrage opportunity between call data and blobs for L2s, and they elect to use either one depending on which one's getting spammed or what the traffic's like and stuff like that. So yeah, it remains to be seen. It's going to be cool to see how it all plays out. But yeah, still cool to see that L2 usage obviously is trending up here. Not just the L2s themselves, but also L2 usage of L1 gas. All right, so you guys may remember Nifty Island. I talked about this project a long time ago. I think it was like when it first came out, I was airdropped one of the Nifty Island palms or whatever, which I still have, by the way, on Sassel.eth. But so Nifty Island announced today they're actually launching on the 17th of January. Now, I honestly hadn't heard much about this project in quite a while, and I was trying to follow it along, but I didn't really hear many updates from them. But yeah, apparently they're launching their open beta for their game here on the 17th of January, and they're saying it's a play to airdrop campaign like no other is coming. Now, there's no more details than that right now. I mean, maybe if you go into the Discord channel, you'll be able to get more details here, but they have a nice little trailer, which you can watch. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, but I'm excited for this. These guys have been grinding away for years now. They didn't give up. They don't seem to have like soft rugged like a lot of projects do or anything like that, where they just basically pretend to continue working on the project and walk away. They seem to have built something here, and I mean the trailer is really high quality, and obviously we have to wait till the 17th to see exactly what their actual game looks like. But I remember playing early alpha builds of it, and it was pretty cool to play out in the open world. And you know, obviously you're going to be able to play in this world with the NFTs that you have, such as like pudgy penguins and apes and cool cats and punks, I think, as well, and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to highlight this for you guys because you guys know that I'm really big on crypto games if they make sense. Like I wouldn't say like I'm someone who pays a lot of attention to crypto games, because a lot of the crypto games I just don't think make a lot of sense, but the ones that do end up making sense I think are going to be huge. And as I said, I don't know all the details around Nifty Island right now. I'm just kind of highlighting it for you guys because it might be something that ends up being a big deal. And obviously there's a possible airdrop to farm here as well. I mean, I wouldn't even say possible. They've literally said there's an airdrop campaign that they're doing here. I don't know what that's going to look like, but hey, it gets the people going, right? It really does get the people going, and it's a good growth tactic at the end of the day. Like, I mean, I sometimes knock the airdrops and the speculation stuff that goes on in crypto, but I think that's just because I'm a boomer these days. At the end of the day, I totally understand that it's a really great way to grow your community and really great way to grow your ecosystem. But it has to be done right as well. There are airdrops that have been done in the past that were really bad and essentially killed any community that the project had because people got really annoyed, and it might be a bit of entitlement here. People just not getting as much of a airdrop as they thought they were going to get, and they're entitled about it, and like, oh, I didn't get as much free money as I should have gotten. Now I'm going to leave your project and hate your project. But as I always say, guys, like, yeah, you know, you got to deal with the kind of reality here, and the reality is that that's how it works a lot of the time in cryptos. You need to really make sure that you reward your early supporters, even if these supporters are just supporting you because they're speculating on an airdrop. At the same time, they're out there shilling your project every day, right? They're talking about it, they're getting more eyeballs on it. They're your marketing department, really, for an early stage project. So I think that when you take that lens and you look at it from that point of view, it's just necessary evil, right? But anyway, you can go check out the trailer for yourself for Nifty Island, and I guess I'll update you guys in about a month when it goes live on exactly what this is all about. All right, last up here, a bit of a bullish rant probably I'm going to go on for the next few minutes. So David Hoffman tweeted out today, very simple tweet. He said, things you're not bullish enough on ETH and restaking. Now, of course, you guys know I'm huge on restaking. I mean, I was just talking about Eigenlayer, of course, but just an FYI, Eigenlayer isn't the only restaking protocol. I think there's two others. One of them I think is called Babylon. The other one I've forgotten the name right now, but obviously Eigenlayer is the most well-known and the market leader, at least right now, even though it's not even live. It's obviously the market leader because it has all that restaked ETH in you know, $600 million that we just worked out. But beyond that, we're talking about things that, you know, people aren't bullish enough on. obviously, I think people aren't bullish enough on ETH right now at all. I think that ETH has been so slept on for at least the last 6 months, right? And I do think ETH is in store for a really, really explosive 2024 from multiple different angles. And I've talked a lot about that on the Refuel before, so I'm not gonna repeat myself here on that front. But I think that a lot of the bullishness around it is also going to be driven by stuff, by new primitives like restaking, for example. And I think I talked about this the other day, but restaking really opens up a new primitive, that shared security primitive. And the reason why it benefits ETH and the Ethereum ecosystem is because ETH is the asset being used as part of that, right? There's going to be so much demand to basically restake, and there's going to be people buying ETH to restake, and then it's going to increase the amount of ETH that's obviously in staking. It's going to increase the overall economic security of the Ethereum network. And it's just going to increase the usage of ETH as that kind of like store of value collateral asset that so many people already use it for. We're just kind of branching out here. And the reason why I'm really bullish on a lot of the stuff that's going to be building with Eigenlayer or using kind of eigenpods and AVSs and stuff like that is because, as I said, I think I've said this a few times now, what it does and what really the main value prop of Eigenlayer to me, or shared security to me, is the fact that a lot of the long tail of things that want to decentralize can now decentralize, and they're not going to get like all of Ethereum security. I mean, it's arguable how much security they're going to get from this, right? But I think it's less about like security and more about being able to tap into even a subset of node operators of the node operators on the Ethereum network in order to bootstrap your network. And then from there, you can just keep adding new node operators using your own token as incentive, obviously. And then people will farm it and they'll get yield and all those sorts of stuff, right? So it really is this kind of primitive that we haven't really seen before. I mean, I think there have been other attempts at it within other networks. Like, for example, I know Polkadot has shared security with their relay chain, and they have a certain model for that. And Cosmos obviously has been a pioneer in that space for quite a while now. But I think the reason why those two things haven't really worked out is, I mean, one, the mind share is just not there. The developers just aren't there as well. And two, the assets, Atom and Dot, are not worth anywhere near as much as ETH, right? As an example here. And it's not a store of value like ETH. They're not money like ETH. They're not used in liquid staking protocols like ETH as well. So being able to restake the LST tokens is a huge thing too. So ETH just has so much Lindy around its moneyness effect and around its store of value effect. I think that's what the main driver is here. And that's why restaking, at least for the very foreseeable future, at least a couple of years, at the very least, is going to be an ETH exclusive thing. And it's going to drive a lot of value to ETH as an asset. So yeah, those are the things that I think people are definitely sleeping on. Obviously, ETH as an asset overall, I think that next year people are going to wake up to it because the price is just going to move up and they're going to, funny enough, basically get sidelined and they're going to FOMO in. I think that's going to happen. Not investment advice, just a theory I have. I've seen it time and time again. And then restaking, I still think people are sleeping on, even though they've obviously put a lot of money into it so far. They're sleeping on just like how many use cases can come from restaking, how many new things can come from restaking, and how that could be how that could lend itself to a potential speculative mania around all of that there. But anyway, those two things, totally agree with David. People aren't bullish enough on them, and you'll hear me talk about them for a long time now. I think I'm going to do a really bullish ETH rant soon. I'm kind of working on a bit of a tweet that I want to put out around this, and I'm going to obviously cover it on the Refuel when I put it out. But yeah, I mean, you guys probably have to wait for the next episodes for that. But I think on that note, that's going to be it for today's episode. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.